Happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com. This is Disconnect to Connect, one word conversations. Now, this has been a fun day because it's like I've been up. I've had a couple conversations with friends and mentors and coaches, and I'm so active. I've been working on my project that I'll be announcing soon. Um, you know, I I've been going back and forth about when to make announcements because sometimes I want to make announcements at the end because I don't want to get in front of this conversation. But sometimes there's some people say that your ending is so it's so complete and it's so focused and it kind of takes me to another place. Having another word after your last word kind of get distracting. So I'll just announce what I'm gonna announce, and then I'll just keep on announcing it, and I'll just put it in a Facebook post. But I am booked up until the end of July, and my goal is to have shows every day until the end of August. And so what I'm going to do, because the other project that I'm working on and the things that I'm going to be announcing soon will take more of my time. So a lot of the my August shows will be recorded, or we record it live, but then will be premiered on the daily basis. Then, so I'm gonna record them ahead of time, and then premiere them. So either I will have new guests or I will have some old shows that I will rerun and premiere during those times. So it's going to be great. It's going to be exciting, but that's what's going on, and so I definitely look forward to that. So let's get into this conversation. The conversation that we're having today is on the word we. This has been coming up a lot for me for a number of different reasons. All you have to do is look on your social media feed or look on your the news, and there's a question around we. And so as I do, I invite a friend in and we have a conversation. So, good morning.
Good morning.
Um, as I do, this is the moment where I ask my guests to introduce themselves however it feels comfortable to them.
Well, Jen Noto. I'm here from Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. I wear lots of hats. So, as far as introducing myself with a title, which I would really probably rather not do,
Okay.
just in light of you and your label conversation, I would rather just be Jen. So, I'll be Jen
Well,
today.
well, I definitely appreciate that because in my conversation around labels, I say our most important label is our name
Mm.
because that's what gives us access to us. All the other things are just things that we do or how different ways that we show up. And the more that we stand in our label as ourself, it has taken me embracing William
Mm.
for me to stand up in everything that is going on and that's showing up in my life. So I
Yeah.
appreciate having a conversation with Jen today. So Jen, the question of today is how does we land for you?
Well, like you alluded to, I mean, it's a huge conversation right now, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We, um, I'll stay with the here and now, right now,
Okay.
you and I,
Okay.
and just what what we can do right now, today together. Um, and I think for me, staying on a one-to-one, smaller scale has always been much more comfortable, for
Right.
sure. Um, I've envisioned many times, having a platform, a large platform, being on stage, speaking some wisdom into the world.
Right.
And, that's just not how it's gone down for me. Um, but the one-on-one that I've been able to have over the years with people has been the most powerful
Right.
medium. And I think that's because you're able to speak from the heart,
Right.
really get down to some conversations that have meaning, that go beyond surface. Being on stage is more being spoken to, right? Or
Right.
about something. Not, it certainly has its place, and I still
Right.
have those visions of grandeur,
Right.
if you will. But for different reasons than I used to be motivated by.
Right.
It's about bringing more love into the world, about bringing more heart to conversations,
Right. No,
inviting that.
I totally get that. I think too often, because I have those grandeurs of being on big stage. I have seen myself on larger stages, and it's like they're not adoring fans, but they're like, at least they're listening, right?
Right, right,
So I
right,
think even in my dreams, they're not like, it's not like, rock star type of thing. It's just like, oh,
right.
okay, they're listening.
Hmm.
So that's better than all that
Hmm.
other stuff.
Right.
But really focusing on what we one
Hmm.
on one can do together or to create. And I think that's what the power of a conversation is.
Hmm.
And the more that we can talk through stuff and share our heart and share at that level and be willing to have those connections not just stop at us, but find other we's,
Right.
because if it, for me, when it's gotten too large, or when I think grandiose,
Hmm.
then I have to think of all of the group of we's, the other we's, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
the we's that I don't understand, or the we's that don't like me, or the all the all the different we's that are not real. For I think they're we's, but they're the others. They're them, right? And so how I relate to them will will dictate our connection or our disconnection,
Hmm.
or the potential connection that we have. And I think, yeah, the more that we focus and concentrate on the one-on-one connections that we're making from the heart, that will really, it kind of, what I'm getting is, the more that we work on that, the more that we can kind of convince our brain that we can do that. I
Right.
connected with this, I can connect with Jen, so I
Right.
can connect with the next one. I can connect with,
Exactly.
type of thing.
Hmm.
And you kind of build that muscle of
Hmm.
connecting. And then we can do amazing things.
Yeah. Taking down the barriers. I mean, because that that's what seems to be such a large part of the overarching conversation,
Right,
right now, is the barriers between us.
right,
Why do those exist? How did they become?
right,
Because it was so easy for me to reach out to you, uh, however many years ago. I wanted to go back and look because of what I found to be, a common thread. You were a stranger
mm,
before. You still were a stranger after I reached out,
right,
but I was curious to know more
right,
because of just this one small common thread. But it was something that was very heart based to me. And I was like,
right,
if I can find that common thread, and that's where I've always operated from with my one-on-one conversations. I was um, a hairdresser for 16 years and a nail technician before that for
right,
14, a realtor after that. These things that I've
right.
done,
Very personal, right? Very
very personal.
personal, right,
And, to have a stranger walk in over and over again, day after day, you only have a short amount of time to make that connection because I never wanted it to just be about the service. I wanted everyone to leave with a feeling,
Right.
something that maybe they couldn't even put their finger on that made them want to come back
Right.
because they felt better when they left me than when they walked in, even if they were
Right.
having a terrible day.
Right.
And, that's always been my goal is to bring sunshine, and being able to relate to the cross section of people that have sat in my chair from all, races, creeds, you name it. I mean,
Right.
they've been there. And I guess for me, I mean, I feel so fortunate for that to have been my path because I
Right.
really just fell into it. But it was
Hmm.
such a great training ground for opening my heart
Right.
to all kinds because man, I got back much more than I ever gave.
Right.
My
Wow.
days, I mean, to be able to spend 30 years within an industry,
Hmm.
yeah, you like it, you love it, I mean, you're getting
Right.
something from it. And it's just that. I mean, I have such an innate curiosity uh, for knowing people's stories. I really, I mean, knowing what you do for sure is one thing. It
Right.
opens conversations,
Right.
but tell me who you are.
Hmm.
What lights you up? What are your loves? What
Right.
things have affected you at the deepest levels?
Right.
I've cried with clients, in my chair,
Right.
for many reasons, and providing a safe space for those types of conversations
Right.
is the biggest privilege.
Right.
Being able to have people feel that level of comfort is what I seek in life. To never have there be a barrier, whether it be just smiling at someone, walking down the
Right.
grocery store aisle or, whatever the opportunity to show
Right.
kindness and love. Um, we have enough strife and turmoil that just comes at us. And to create more, to me, is just, I don't get it.
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't get it.
They have enough energy. That's
Of
somebody
their
else
own.
has that job, right? So it's
Yeah.
like I got a different job. No, I think that is the biggest thing about my conversation around labels, that I have no, I don't have labels that are good or bad. They're just, they're just identifiers, and it's like um, they mean everything and they mean nothing at the same
Mhm.
time. And the
Right.
more that we're able to connect to people beyond those labels,
Mhm.
beyond, like, I so much appreciate your story of having people in your chair and just finding ways to connect with them. Is that, if they just saw you as someone that is going to make them look good, right, or look
Mhm.
better, right,
Right. Right.
they would
Hopefully.
have no listening, right, hopefully, right, no, they would have no listening for your love and your compassion and and for their life.
Mhm.
And there was something within those encounters that caused them to not just allow you sit there and still, so and
Right.
just make it happen, but really engage and make a connection. And I think that willingness and that curiosity with each other, I think that's a thing that's missing, because we know labels, or we have an understanding
Mhm.
of labels, right? An old person comes in, old person label, or a white label or black label. It's
Right.
like in our mind we're like, okay, I know what this is,
Yeah.
until we don't, right?
Until
Right.
we
you know
don't.
right. Until, so are we going to hold on to what we know about the person, the labels that are showing up in our life, or we're going to be willing to be curious and to connect with the human being that just started to connect with us, or potentially. So that's the we conversation, that
Mhm.
willingness to to make that connection.
Well, I mean that's what has shaped my life, is being willing to listen and to strip away those labels, not have any preconceived notion when someone sits in my chair. You know, some of the oldest clients in my chair
Hmm.
have possessed the most zest for life.
Hmm.
Um, it's made me excited rather than dreading age. It's
Hmm.
made me excited to get to that place of that level of comfort and wisdom
Hmm.
with self,
Right.
um, because once you get there I mean, I have found this to be more the rule rather than the exception with
Right.
the elder clientele that I've been graced with, is that they are so comfortable in their own skin
Hmm.
that they just don't care what others think anymore,
Right.
in a way that is liberating.
Right.
Freedom has been granted for them to
Right.
live their lives fully and completely without fear of judgment.
Right.
And I think that right now that has been coming up for me a lot, as
Right.
I watch the news and listen and read stories, is the fear of judgment. And listen, I have it so big. I mean, coming here with you today, being in this live forum, it's a scary thing for me, because one on one, it's good that I'm just sitting here looking at
Right.
only you.
Right.
I don't, the potential for audience is unknown for me, so that's providing some comfort for me. But one on one is great for me, but the large stage is scarier. And but the coming back to the judgment, I think that so many of us fear that judgment because we have been judged so harshly all of our lives for the actions we take, um,
Right.
even though they're coming from a place of, you know, usually just spontaneity. It's the tools that we have at our disposal at any given time. None of us are perfect,
Right.
but granting one another space to make mistakes
Right.
has rarely been allowed. Certainly in my own life, anyway. It's something I've had to break free of myself.
Right.
I'm doing a lot of work around that right now with the conscious and the subconscious mind.
Hmm.
And you know, because um, I want my consciousness and my heart to lead,
Right.
not this body, not this mind,
Right.
but this, you
Right.
know, allow me to connect with you in that same manner, you
Right.
know. I, and I'm going through a yoga teacher training right now that's just been like, wow, like I can't believe how this ancient tradition
Right.
just gets it, you know?
Right.
It's like, where has this been all my life, And
Right.
I've been doing yoga for 20 years,
Wow. Wow.
but going into a yoga studio and performing the asana, the asanas and the even sometimes there's chanting, there's meditation, but to go to a different level of
Hmm.
understanding about your consciousness, and
Right.
that yoga is really about the mind, about emptying the mind and connecting with your higher power.
Right.
um I to me, I feel like I'm only just beginning the journey.
Right. No, I totally get that. And it's like, there's, it was like when you were speaking, there's like a series of we's, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which it's just kind of, it was just kind of odd to me because it was like, you know how you, when you look in a mirror, that you look in the mirror, you look in the mirror, you see, you see so many reflections of,
Yeah.
of yourself. I think the more that we show up as ourselves, we find ourselves in different we's, different levels of we's, and
Mm-hmm.
we're just kind of, the more that we're willing to not stay in one area and not stay at one, you could say, hey, I've been in yoga for 20 years, so I got it, right?
Right.
And
Mhm.
then you miss it, right? Right,
Right.
right, So I mean, but too often we look at a group of people and say, oh, we know what that is, and we don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't, and it's really, I think now is is this is the time. I'll just use this language. This is the time for us to acknowledge what we are seeing and what we're not seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that we embrace that because our seeing is getting in the way of what we're not seeing,
Right.
we can have access to more. And so we can look again and we can look further and we can just really lean into that. And the more that we lean into that looking further and looking again, then the groups of we's can turn into one we,
Right.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a difficult, challenging, a lot of internal work.
Mm-hmm.
But the more that we get stuck and stop, and I say with in my labels conversation, that if you hold on to your labels too tightly, they become prisons.
Right.
They keep you from, and I think in prison, yes, I'll speak for myself because I'm speaking for we again, right?
Right. Right.
I have seen myself kind of like, oh, well, this is who I am and this is what I do,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can make myself feel good within that, but then I get very resentful that there's nothing else available to me.
Right.
But I created it,
Right. Exactly.
right? It's like, let it go. And
Let it go.
right? You
Mm-hmm.
got the key to get out of the prison that you created for yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like,
Mm-hmm.
damn it.
Right. It's so true. It is so true. I mean, we do it. You're right. I mean, those labels, I mean, even, if you look at, things that are very difficult, like autism, for instance, looking at the gifts within that rather than the, things that might be challenging,
Right,
it's like, wow, I mean, it's full of gifts, right?
right.
But if you only look from the label, you're not looking at what what that human can do, beyond that label.
Right.
Any of us, you know, adult children of an alcoholic. Okay, that's
Hmm.
been one of my labels.
Hmm.
I I have no interest in staying in what that might be for me
Hmm.
as a lifetime. I honor it. I'm
Hmm.
grateful for the teachings that I had because of that, seeking to understand what that might mean for me.
Right.
But again, I had no, once I got to a place of understanding that made sense to me, I, I wanted to throw away, I wanted to unlock the door and throw away the key because
Right.
I was ready to bust out. I'm like,
Right.
okay, what's next?
Right. Right.
I understand this. This does not have to be an oppression for me. What is this? This understanding now leads me to have a greater sense of empathy for others who are in that boat.
Right.
That's what it did for me anyway.
Right.
It
No,
allowed me
get
to
it.
break the chains and to possess that empathy when I come in contact. Look at somebody with a more loving gaze
Right.
rather than, you know, well, if you would just go to your meetings and,
Right.
read what you're supposed to read, or because that type of thing was said to me. Well, how many meetings have you been to this week? You know, how much have you read? Are you doing your daily readings? Um, we beat ourselves up enough in life, right?
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
so to beat others up for circumstances, thought processes, it's very difficult, I think, for us as humans,
Right.
to lead with our hearts. It's practice. Once again, it's
Right.
practice.
Right. And it's and I so appreciate you sharing that because there is I would always and see when I say this some of the times and when my kids have heard it or sometimes some people that I've worked with of I don't say I have a discipline problem, but it's just the construct of that and goal setting and all that other
Mhm.
kind of thing. It's I have achieved more success in my life when I just live my life. When
Right.
I just make a commitment to live my life, I then stop doing the things that I don't want to do, that are
Right.
not healthy for me.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't need this book that I need to go to every day to tell me, do this. No, I have reached the point, and it's like, hey, have you done your reading, or what's your goal? Have you, re-engineered it and all that other kind of stuff? And it's like, dude, I'm just living my life, okay?
Right.
Right? It's like it is just going. What happens and what doesn't happen, and the one thing that I'm getting for myself is that there's a lot more people just trying to live their life,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
stop trying to be quote unquote
Hmm.
normal or fit in all these other kind of. It's like, dude, I'm free of this. Let me. And the more that we allow people to live their life, the
Hmm.
instead of chaos becomes liberation, and become
Right.
liberation becomes possibility for so many of the things that people want to see. But
Yeah.
if people are in prison, they ain't making anything but license plates, I guess. But and just vehicles to kind of just keep on doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I have to remember that. That was pretty ingenious there. But we're just making license plates.
Right.
Just
Right.
let's live our lives. There's more to
Hmm.
life than just making license plates. So
Yeah, I mean, victimhood is a stronghold. It allows you to justify a whole lot in your
right,
life, a
right,
whole lot for not doing. But this, but that,
right,
but but when you get tired enough of hearing yourself,
right.
you know,
Absolutely.
that's when the change starts to happen.
Yeah, to acknowledge victim or being a victim of in a situation.
Mhm.
But for me, I separate it of not making it a hood. A hood
Right.
is a group, so
Yeah.
we gather all these, okay, this happened, and
Mhm.
now it's not happening, and now what am I going to do?
Mhm.
So if I like collect my victims, now I have a hood, and that's my life.
Yeah.
And it's like
Exactly.
that is no way to live.
Mm-mm.
So not kind of creating in shaming people into anything like that, but it takes that internal work, as you talked about before, to really create the life that we want. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, there are terrible things that's happened to me. There are difficult
Right.
pointing things that I've lived through and kind of processed,
Right.
but I believe that I'm not ignoring it. I'm just choose
No.
not to live it, there. I'm not to have that shape
Mm-hmm.
what I write, what I say, how I live. And I think that's a difference. That's a difficult way of living. And sometimes you can, if you look hard enough, you can find the we of victims, right? You can find the we of,
Mhm.
of angry. You can
Right.
find the we, right?
Hmm.
I think that's the one thing that happens with social media, with like and love. Say something crazy, crazy will like it and
Yeah.
keep it going, right?
You can always find somebody to co-sign on your BS, right?
Right,
Always.
right. And so it's like, who is we? Who is the we that I want to be connected to? Do I want to be connected to that or something more, something greater?
Mhm. Yeah.
And we can decide, but first you have to decide.
Well, I mean, connecting again, back to connecting with you was, it's the Good Life Project.
Right.
I mean, wow, like the Good Life Project. Who doesn't want to be a part of that
Right.
project?
Right. Absolutely.
And bringing
You
that
got me
into
with
the
the
world.
name, right?
Yeah. I'm like, and there are so many great things like that going on right now. It's like pick one that resonates with you and just, commit to it, to
Right.
some change. And again, like you said, I mean, honoring, victims. And I mean, there is true victimization that
Right.
has gone on out there. A lot of work that has to be done around trauma and that, but living in the solution and not allowing it to become your label
Right.
and that that mask, because it can become a mask also,
Right.
that you continue to don, to your detriment, of your true self.
Right.
I mean, we were all born with everything we need, right?
Right.
Like you said, we don't need the books, the programs, whatever. I think that they are more about undoing,
Yes, I got that.
the layering of circumstances that have happened to us in our lifetimes, the conditioning that we, had happen. I mean, they say in the first 7 years of your life is, what is the primary shaper of your conditioning.
Right. Wow.
Those things that you work so hard to be able to shift those neural pathways,
Right.
and its subtleties, things that we don't even realize that keep us in a victim mindset, or a, just woe is me, like, the world is so bad, it's never going to be me. Why would it be me? Why
Right.
not you? Why
Right.
not me?
Right.
What about the things? I mean, we've all pulled things off in our lives,
Right.
whether it's coming to the other side of a victimization,
Right.
or whatever it is that we've come through. We all have had that opportunity to show strength and bravery,
Right.
uh, and it sometimes gets clouded by our shame, that we
Right.
feel for being in the victim seat, because again, that conditioning was usually built into whatever happened to
Right.
us.
The one thing that I just became present to, is how easy it is for us to have we language. It is, and I don't know if it's in our DNA of belonging, or our socialization, or
Mhm.
something. But so as I say it again, as I say we, it feels like that I so much want to and need to connect and belong, that I use the we language
Mm.
to kind of remind myself or have myself believe that I am a part of something. Or it is, the reality is that I am,
Mhm.
but sometimes I just do not, acknowledge the we's that I'm really, a part of. And it just really feels harder to speak for myself, because really that's all I can speak for is myself, right?
Right. And I mean, yeah, totally. I mean, I'm saying we over and over again and including others that may not be true for, but and and what I've come to realize for myself is that a lot of my inclusive vocabulary is
Hmm.
because I want that for the collective.
Got it. I got it.
Um, and I had to really take a hard look at that because I was like, why can't I break that habit? And I still work hard to speak from my own experiences, but I do, I guess because I have spoken to such a large cross section of people over the years that I have come to realize that we are so much more similar than we are dissimilar,
Great.
that we all have those things. And it is what allows me to, again, cast my gaze with love,
Right.
rather than judgment. Um,
Right.
and though I know I so much have to do the inner work,
Right.
the goal is to take away those things that separate me from the collective. I mean, I truly believe that we are from the same spark, all of us. And and again, that's a personal belief, but
Right.
it's what guides my my daily my daily curiosity, my curiosity about self and
Right.
about others.
Yeah. The
Getting
self
to
and
know.
us in that conversation, right? Got it. I try not to say this too often out loud. I think I said it on the show before. I have a Sesame Street conspiracy, right?
A what a set.
It's like a Sesame Street, the show when we were kids, the
Oh,
Sesame
Sesame
Street.
Street. Yeah, yeah,
Right. It's like, the segment on, one of these things are not like the other, you know. I think that conditioned us to look for the other instead of
yeah.
the similarities.
Mm,
And so if we were conditioned to look for, hey, here are a lot of diverse things, what is the same about this?
mm-hmm,
Then we are looking would be to that.
mm-hmm.
But I find myself often when I'm in situations, I'm looking for things that are out of place. I'm
Right,
looking for things that don't belong. I'm
right.
and it's just like that damn Sesame Street, right?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And
And it's
how old were
like,
you when you were watching that? Right.
right? It's like,
Part of your
six,
early
seven,
conditioning.
right? That right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's that. I think the other thing that came up because around 8 or 9 is when I change my name or I start going by Bill
Oh,
because
right. Okay.
I was told, I was Willie, for a lot of early years,
Mm-hmm.
and for a number of reasons, I hated that and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
appreciate it. Didn't land for me, so I had to
Yeah.
create something else. So I was like fighting against what I was told and I was
Yeah.
believed and on all of that. So a lot of my life was being this bill that I created and all of that for me to now, adopt or embrace my given, birth certificate name of
Right.
William.
Yeah.
It's, I'm all of those things now. So I'm
Sure.
Willie, I'm Bill, I'm
Mm-hmm.
William. But it's just really, in order for me to embrace all of me or all of
Mm-hmm.
us, right? Type of
Yeah.
thing. It really took years and time and focus to really kind of do that. And I think that's what the inner work that we're doing.
Yeah.
How can I show up for myself so I can show up for
Mm.
us? You
Right.
know, until I can long for and appreciate the we's of my
Mm-hmm.
life, but until I know the me,
Mm-hmm.
I am in some cases in the way or
Right.
kind of not seen within
Mm-hmm.
the we. And I think labels will defend labels. You know,
Absolutely.
you
Hmm.
get a group of moms together and they can make shit happen, right? It's like, moms, we're on it, right?
Right.
Right? Women, you're on it.
Hmm.
But when you get some individuals together, Lord knows what, if they're not clear
Hmm.
about who they are and how they can show up in the situation, it's chaos, right?
Chaos. Right.
Right? And it's like, I didn't sign up for this, right? Type of thing. But the more that we embrace ourselves, the more that we can know when situations need us to show up.
Well, and what is that about? It's about being able to listen, right?
Right. Right.
You know,
Really.
um, I'm here in all my glory. I'm going to bring what I got to bring. But oh, you didn't need that? Oh, sorry. I mean, we sometimes, us as individuals become a part of the learning curve, I think, in getting to know ourselves
Right.
and love ourselves can sometimes take us to that place of self-importance
Right.
where we start to feel like, well, I do have a place in this world. And of course we do. We all have a
Right.
place in this world, but it's not
Right.
above you.
Right.
It's not about above anyone else out there. You and
Right.
I are equal,
Right.
and I want, if I am coming to you in service, I want to show up for you in the way that you need for me to show up for
Right.
you,
Right.
not in the way that I think I should show up for you.
Got it. Yeah.
And to me, that is a lot of what's happening right now is people are showing up in the way that they think others want them to show up instead
Right.
of listening to how.
Right. Wow. I totally believe most of our challenges, if not all, because I don't want to make generalizations, um, are because we get caught up on the how.
Hmm.
The more that we can let the you know, how go, the more that we'll be able to see and just stand for things and have things
Right.
show up in our lives. Yeah.
Well,
I can totally get that. The listening is like a key, and we listen after the fact. We say what we're gonna say, and then we listen to see if people agree with us or not, right?
right, right.
But it's not listen first and then make a contribution, and
Well,
see if a contribution is needed from me.
and on that, note, I mean, you and I sitting here having this conversation, if it were just the two of us in a room, you know, what would you say to me about what's coming up for you right now with we?
I think the really letting go that um, I have to go along with we without any understanding, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
What I would consider like a mob mentality, a group think. I really think the more that I can make a contribution to the we or the we's of my life is to stay in the work of myself, of self
Mhm.
discovery, and then listen to what the we's need or asking for or are, are needing in that environment. And the more that is, that I'm open to that. Because look, the reality is that there are some times I'm not needed, and
Right.
that's okay.
Mhm.
Right, and it's like, it's not like, I'm gonna take my ball and go home. It's just
Yeah.
get out of the way. I'm still here. I can still benefit. And I think sometimes when we's are so loud and screaming and angry and everything, there is this tendency to believe that all of us should be loud and angry and all of that. And it's like, no, I'm not going to contribute to that.
Right.
That's that's not. my contribution to this. You're
Mhm.
doing very well with that,
Right.
you know. And so that's really coming up to me is like the more that I I am willing to to look for the we opportunities for the
Mhm.
connections, in my life, the one-on-one,
Mhm.
or the one to many, opportunities that come up for my life. It has to be about my listening.
Yeah.
It has to start with my listening and what I see and what I'm willing to understand with that,
Mhm.
and not just hold it to anything else. So yeah, that's what I'm getting out of this conversation.
Yeah, I've definitely had moments of anger, things that I've read, anger for others' pain, but that's not my typical, and it's definitely not where my strength lies. I can't stay at those elevated places of anger
Right,
because I've never found them to be beneficial. They don't
right,
solve anything for
right,
me personally.
right.
Um, and I heard a great story yesterday from Ram Dass. I've got an audio book that I'm listening to right now talking about his training in Aikido. He went for 3 years, 8 hours a day. It's supposed to be about nonviolence and all that, but you love to grapple and, fighting not allowed,
Hmm.
in Aikido.
Hmm.
I hope I'm saying it correctly.
Okay.
Aikido. Uh, and he was on a train when he was in Japan doing this training, and there was a guy who came on who was inebriated, was being very loud, pushing, just obnoxious. And he's thinking, yes, this is my time. I'm actually going to get to fight. I'm going to be able to justify my training,
Yeah.
I, even though he's been told, you know, that's not it. No fighting, even though you are highly trained and you could take someone out with this training,
Right.
no fighting. That's not the goal of this. And he suddenly has found justification.
Hmm.
So he's watching this guy, he's getting louder and louder. And he's like, if he twitches one more time, I'm going for it. And he's just foaming at the mouth, ready for this interaction. Suddenly, he takes a step towards this man, and there's an older man, 70, 75-year-old man, who suddenly shouts out, "Hey!" Everyone stops and turns. He says, "You, come over here." And he's speaking to the man who's drunk.
Right.
The man goes over there, he said, as if he was being pulled on a string. Kneels right beside him, and he says, "Young man, why are you drunk?" He's like, "What is it? What is it of your business?" He said, "What have you been drinking?" "Sake." And so the older gentleman says, "Ah." He said, "Ah, I love sake. My wife and I, we love sake. We go out every night. We have this beautiful tree in our backyard. We sit under the tree and we drink our sake." And he, the the man who's drunk, who starts looking at him, and his eyes are twinkling, and Ram Dass is, of course, observing this whole encounter,
Right.
and he's also been diffused over here.
Right.
And the guy's twinkling, and he starts looking up at the man, just gazing at him, and he says, "Why did you drink so much sake today?" The older man says to
Right.
him. And he says, he said, no, the older man says, "I bet you have a wife that you love to drink sake with too." He said, "No." He said, "My wife was killed."
Hmm.
Suddenly, the reality comes into the picture of why this man is drinking himself into oblivion. the older man starts to stroke the younger man's head as he lays his head in his lap and starts to weep.
Right. Wow.
And there, I don't remember the actual completion, of that, what he moved into next, but basically he watched the power. Oh, that's what he said, was he watched the power of Aikido in action.
Wow.
That was an Aikido, in battle. That was that was the work, you
Wow.
know, and it was done with love. It
Right.
wasn't done with the power that was available to him.
Right.
The power, was in connecting with another human being at a
Right.
heart level,
Right.
and that's where I believe, as we started the conversation, that where the true peace and harmony will come from.
Right.
I can only continue to be hopeful
Right.
and contribute in my individual way.
I will join you in that. So there is a we in that hope. Jen, we could talk for hours, and I on this, and I appreciate your generosity and your insight in this,
Thank you.
and I'm sure this conversation of we will continue. Um, is there any last thing? But I think that was a last thing, because that really got me. So if
Well, I
there's
know
any
I didn't
last thing
tell it
that you want to say.
perfectly, but
No, but it got
um,
through. It got through the heart, and I think that's what it's all about. I mean, sometimes our words don't match up with our heart, but as long as our heart is within it, it gets across.
right.
And so we don't need perfect words.
I did recommend your book to a friend today. She was looking for recommendations for a children's book,
Oh
and
wow,
I
I
sent her the Goodreads link to your Beyond the Shell.
well, I appreciate that. That
Mhm.
is an ongoing conversation with me, and so I that was something my 7-year-old self um, wanted to tell that story, but needed that story.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
and
so awesome,
so,
right?
right. So, well, thank you very much. I'm going to put you in the green room. We're going to end
Thank
the
you. I appreciate
show.
you so much.
No, this has been great. Thank you. Wow. Yeah, that was great. I think really looking at, as I say, it sounds funny, but the we's in our life. Too often I think that I need to connect to one thing. So I have to find this one purpose. And I think there is a one big purpose, but I think in order to get to the one we have to acknowledge and appreciate the many we's that show up. As long as I work to not make it the other, the them, and see them less than, I think that there is a power in we. And just explore that, and that we can be one other person. So, the world wants you, the world needs you, and the world is waiting for you. So go be you. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow.